Hey, thanks for being here with us. We're going to talk about inflation, we're going to be talking about earnings, and we're going to be talking about house prices. I'm Adam Anderson, owner and founder of WealthGuard Advisors.
Hello, Blake Anderson, certified financial planner. Thanks so much for joining us.
First off, we want to talk about the S&P 500 and just where the market is. We actually had July was not a great month. As you could see here, this is July, kind of start off here, and then we see it going back up in August. But it's really start off and shook it out. So it wasn't a great month in July, but that is was unusual because we've had 12 years in a row of up Julys. So to not have one was kind of an anomaly. But we've had on record the best August since 1950. So we got a 3% gain right in the first part of the month. So we're just inches away from all-time highs, which is seven. This is the SPY, which was 7,790, so almost 7,800 would be a new high on the S&P 500. So we're watching that closely. But we're right there at the all-time highs. So I'm pretty excited. I feel a little optimistic because of earnings.
Yeah, we're wrapping up earnings season. We look at this compared to historically, I think 88% or 86%, was it? 86% of S&P 500 companies exceeded their earnings expectation. So positive surprise there, which is really good to see that. We talked about the strong earnings, and that's just a measure of how broad the strength of this market is. We're seeing lots of companies doing better than expected. And yeah, unfortunately, July was ended up uh, just slightly above flat. But I think that's just because the July rally ended up pushed into the first couple days of August there. Um, Traditionally, when we talk about seasonality, August, September tend to be a little slower, especially September, where July tends to be strong. So just a little shifted here a little bit, um, especially now that earnings are wrapping up. We have a few more retailers. I know Walmart is this week is a big one. Home Depot, a couple of Chinese retailers. Baidu is this week. So smaller things to look forward to. I think more interesting is inflation numbers. We just got our CPI report last week, which was pretty good.
Yeah, CPI was came in like basically flat. Consumer Price Index, which basically measures the cost of goods and services. What we looked at here in July is pretty much everything was down, or flat, I should say. But the most interesting, well, of course, is the biggest winners is energy. Now, it doesn't seem like I'm feeling that at the pump personally, but because we saw such a big hype back in the first part of the year. But it has been came down 9.7% last month and 2.9 this month. But still for the year, it's up 24%. So not great on that. So, but what is interesting that I saw was medical services. So, medical care is down 2.7%, and this is really unusual. And this is really being driven by pharmaceuticals. So we see that it was down again, zero point 0.6, zero point 0.2, zero point 0.7, zero point 0.4, 1%. So it has been on the decline for 6 consecutive months. So there's policies around medical pharmaceutical pricing in the U.S., and that's really helped out the consumer price index to keep us low on that front. Now, since I'm not a person that takes a lot of medicine, doesn't help me a lot. But if you are meds, maybe you're seeing your prices going down. So the other thing we looked at was homes. So the other interesting thing I was looking at is the number of sellers of homes versus the number of buyers of homes, and this was put out by Redfin, and over since I guess this is 12 years or something. So the red line is the number of home buyers, and this is a record low. That we have less than 1 million home buyers in the nation right now, where the number of home purchasers, excuse me, home sellers it's almost like a 1.5% increase difference. So we have this big gap. Look at here in 2022, and everyone was like, COVID, I'm going to move out to the country, and interest rates are like 2.5, 3%. So this big spike in the di- the differential between home sellers and home buyers, and now we're looking at this big differential of the number of home buyers to home sellers. So it is a buyer's market if you're in the market to buy a house. Uh, a lot of people are selling though right now. So if you were in the market to sell, that's not the best thing.
Yeah, it's just how interesting how this dynamic has been shifting. And I know interest rates are playing a big part in that. Interest rates remain elevated. I know there's still a lot of fears going on about, where interest rates are heading. Right now they're elevated, but staying steady. In the high 4%, the 10-year yield tends to be around 4.7, and it's been sitting there. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes, and it's definitely something to pay attention to if you're looking at moving soon, being in buyer's market. So uh, it's just something we don't see very often, where this discrepancy between sellers and buyers is not something that happens very often.
It really is hard. We being in California, to be a landlord in California is tough. Uh, if you know me, I was in a situation where I had a squatter, I couldn't get rid of them. So, being a landlord is a challenging thing. And also in our county where they are not, like Airbnb, VRBO friendly, that's a real hard thing too. Yeah, put some people in a real pickle on that front. So, Blake, everyone's always looking for the newest, hottest, latest thing. And AI has been the thing that's been on the top of everyone's mind as far as hot trends going on there, and of course, we've tried to participate that in as much as possible. Um, but what's on the frontier horizon? Like, you got any ideas?
Yeah, we've definitely seen a turnaround in those AI names, especially those memory chips. Micron, SanDisk, Western Digital, they all had big pullbacks June, July. And that's what we saw. The weakness in July was driven by these names. But for the last couple of weeks, they've finally experienced this turnaround. So hopefully you didn't get spooked out. I know we talked about this a few weeks ago, where we say, hey, we're not saying give up on these names, and we're being rewarded for that now, holding on. But another sector we talked about, which I still think is really strong, is the financial sector. I keep looking at all the banks, and we talked about their earnings a couple weeks ago when they jumped off the earnings season, very strong, and they still continue to hold on very strong. Basically, ever since March, and especially since June, it's just been on a tear, and I just don't see this slowing down yet.
Financials kind of the bedrock of our economy, and always just usually a good play, especially if interest rates stay stable or actually going down, it'll be beneficial to banks. And when the CPI numbers that came out last week, very low inflation, which gives the Federal Reserve Board the likelihood that they're not going to raise rates. I think the odds of them raising rates in September went down to like 30% or less. So it's a very low chance that we're going to have a rate raise. And so for those that have been around the market long enough, or with us, you know that when interest rates are going up, it's usually a bad thing for the market, like we saw in 2022 when interest rates are coming down, like we saw when they're trying to stimulate the market coming out of the COVID and 2020, 2021. That was like gangbusters. So to have a real stable Federal Reserve and to have them unlikely to raise interest rates will definitely be good for the financials and also a lot of these consumer types of staples kind of companies. So, yeah, it's a good thing. One of the things that I want to talk about really quick is just quantum computing. It's something out there in the fantasy land right now, but when they're computing right now to generate uh, processing data with computers, it takes a lot of energy. That's why the um, nuclear stocks have been going up because they need energy to run these things, and they are hot. They need like sub-zeros. They want to put them out in outer space because it's cool because they run so hot. They need to have big cooling systems to keep these databases cool. So quantum computers kind of solving that problem. It takes a lot less energy and it runs a lot cooler and they're a lot better, faster. So it's coming from the realm of fantasy into reality. And we're starting to see like some of these companies are implementing in their data centers some of these quantum chips to see how they're working. They're kind of in the beta testing area still, and they say they're probably about 5 years out before we really start seeing quantum be a thing. But let's just look at qubits, D-wave uh, quantum, and I'm gonna back this out because there's a lot of hype around it, and so everything was like, "Hey, this could be the newest greatest thing." Went way up like 1,800%, crazy. And then everyone's like, "Maybe not." So it had this huge run up, gives up like 65 plus percent on the way down. That hurts anyone that jumped in that bandwagon. But I'm looking at an underlying trend here. One is I think there's reality involved in this, but there's this underlying trend, and we're kind of coming off of that. Maybe we'll test this again. Not for the faint of heart. There's a number of other these quantum companies like this, and companies like Oracle and IBM are starting to implement these chips, or at least beta test them. So it could be something to be aware of in the future. So we have a lot of great stuff going on. Call us. Let us know if we could be of help to you. If you have questions, concerns, want to just discuss what's going on, we're here for you. Blake, anything else you want to add?
Thanks so much for joining us today. I know there's lots going on in the market, and we're happy to talk with you. A reminder here, WealthGuard Advisors, we are a registered investment advisory firm registered directly with the Securities and Exchange Commission. And part of that, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients to act in their best interest. So if you want to sit down with us and see if we could be of service, maybe pick our brains about what's the latest going on in the market in our minds, we'd love to chat with you and see if we could be of help. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you so much. Now, we talked about our retirement readiness seminar that we did down in Dublin last week before last. It was a great turnout. A lot of people showed up. I posted a picture about Blake, talking about how to make the most of Social Security in retirement, and that was a very popular topic. It had some people like, "Hey, I want to know more about that." So, if you want to come to our next retirement readiness seminar, if you have questions about things we talked about, give us a call. But we'll let you know when the next one's coming. We're gonna be doing about every quarter around the Northern California area. So if you wanted to tap into something like that, let us know. Again, have a great week. We love you. Talk to you later.